That's right, you guessed it. The third video is about the Constitution Refit and how it should hit Tier 6. So, before anything, please don't post this video on the official forums for Star Trek Online. It's against the rules. Now that that's out of the way, we can get going on the most beautiful Star Trek ship of all time, the Constitution Refit. Look at this baby. Man, made Warp 9 look like it was nothing. Hmm. Well, here we are at Khitomer, and it's a strange, crazy piece that might come on over Star Trek Online here. Cause, oh, this ship has been fighting for Endgame since the beginning, along with the original Connie. Um, and just to say at the start, most of what I say in this video will probably apply to the original Connie as well. Um, well, maybe not. Uh, I wish I could have investigated that just a bit deeper before making this video. But, well, what I mean by that is I just got to look at the patent for the Constitution Refit design as a toy, and apparently there's at the time it was legally interpreted as holding the rights of both the refit and the original show TOS version of the Constitution. So maybe all their fates are shared. It's it's interesting, you know. The ship of Theseus really is Constitution class. Oh, I love it. It's so good. It's oh man, it just it makes you want to think about it. Mmm, jeez. Oh, what a looker. Yeah, like even this model, which is fairly old in the Stowe uh, handbook, is still looks awesome as hell because it's just a well poised design. But yeah, it's gonna be tough uh, to argue and successfully sell a ship to Tier 6 when talking about it isn't really even allowed at the official forum for discussion. So, you know, um, I will try to make a little bit of a splash with it. Um, you know, I've watched I've watched some people get banned over this issue, so please take the warning seriously. You know, if you're a TOS fan, there may be a few little details in here that may excite you. They may incite you, but be careful, please. Um, Peaceful protest is always the answer. Um, 90% of the time. Uh, oh. But yeah, let's try and get this ship to Tier 6. Let's get it there. And to try and go there, I've prepared a list of things I need to talk about. And hopefully, if you've watched one or two of these others, you'll know that I'm not even getting started. I'm still on that intro. Um, okay, yeah. So about this issue being a bannable offense, um, well, it's been spammed to hell. All sorts of spiteful things have been said, both sides. Uh, Oftentimes it got fairly repetitive. Um, I can understand why they wouldn't want to hear any more of it, but personally, I feel that, well, all right, let's discuss the latest Tribbles in Ecstasy podcast, where they interview Captain Gekko. He says, well, he even asks, when asked if they could put the Exeter or the Excalibur up for Tier 6, but keep the Connie refit skin out of it, he said at one point, it was like, well, what would be the point? And I could swear he said almost something very similar to that another time he was asked almost the exact same question. So I almost get the feeling this could be something that's been in the pipes for a long time. So hopefully you can maintain just enough optimism with me here to entertain the notion as I go through all these weird different angles. Um, yeah, the yeah, it's yeah. Let's get one another little look at this script thing. Yeah, okay, so yeah, I can understand why they would be upset with the discussion, but at the same time, I'm really not big on censorship, you know. If we could keep it contained, maybe like maybe yeah, it would have maybe it could have worked better. But you know, let the Connies flow into the streets. Um, that's what I say. Um, and there's one other detail that I should mention about this whole issue is it has risen, ebbed, and flowed into almost silence. Uh, See, we've never gotten confirmation from CBS that this no endgame constitution rule exists. This is only information that's been supplied through Cryptic, and you know they are licensing the actual Star Trek as far as I know. So, you know, it it wouldn't be, it's probably okay to consider Cryptic word, honest, reasonable about this. But um, at the same time, when specifically asked about it, they get slippery. They get all loosey goosey. Um, so I'm gonna just toss it up there, out into the air. You know, it I don't think there could be a better time for me to do this with Stephen Rakosa asking, for elaborate requests for Tier 6, and with a TOS expansion coming out, flavored expansion. Well, maybe maybe at this point it might be better to call it TOS Enterprise Hybrid. Kind of silly, but well, no. It's yeah, it's I don't yeah, time travel happening to get us these things is yeah, incredibly logical. I often daydreamed about a similar situation, but it was just an excuse for making a endgame Constitution refit. Um, like all the pieces are there for it to happen. So let's there are probably a lot of people still who maybe don't really feel like it should happen, don't think it seems logical, and to a certain degree, in certain levels of canon, soft canon, and in-game logic pool, that's all varying in degree. But it's not like that's a bad starting thought at all. So yeah, the CBS, I'm not totally 100% sure. CBS hasn't provided direct information about this rule, but I've never been able to find any, and I've basically almost religiously followed this issue since I started playing a few weeks or a few months after free to play started. Um, yeah, it's all right. So there's hope. So maybe you can maybe you could entertain some rants and uh, churning ideas on how and why this could happen, but within the universe of Star Trek and also mostly within the universe of Star Trek Online. Um, all right, so you know, a lot of naysayers are probably like, no, there's no bundles, there's no refits coming. Uh, that's crazy talk. Um, they'll say that the ship is too small to really be a cruiser or to be an endgame, and that's silly because it's really not. Um, if you go to Ex Astrosentia, the probably the most fabulous resource for Star Trek starship information that you can find on the internet. Um, yeah, if you go there, you can find the most wonderful ship scale, and the refit is on it. And you'll see that the refit is bigger than the Defiant by a nice little measure. The refit is, you can see through the charts that the refit is also then bigger than a Jem'Hadar bug ship by a nice little measure, and that thing is like covered with empty space in its design. You know, um, within Star Trek, well, the rules can vary, but I try to just go off what we see off screen. So I think of the warp core as the big tubes. I think that's where the juice is at, and uh, from all the soft cannon to you know times being called canon manuals I've seen, the Connie refit looks like it has a warp core that could match the size of most ships. You know, maybe just be a slight tad shorter than the top potential, because Enterprise D had its warp core in a real weird place. Maybe more logical than the refit, but it didn't have a lot of room in the up and down dimensions. And the Sovereign was so flat, and yeah. Excelsior, I don't know if we've seen the size of its core either. Maybe we have, but yeah, the Excelsior wasn't like a whole lot taller than the refit either. I feel like it's the smallest, or almost maybe the smallest size you could get while still having the absolute most important things for your Star Trek ship. Um, yeah, trying to think of a cruiser that could be smaller than it. To my confirmed knowledge, at Endgame there's only one. The Katinga and the D7 are technically smaller than the Constitution Refits and the Enterprise, respectively, I think. Um, Turns out that neck is real skinny. Um, yeah, so there's that. That technically is only at Tier 5U. So I guess you could say maybe that if you wanted to make it a hard cruiser or battle cruiser, it couldn't go above Tier 5U. That argument could be made, but man, that would be such a tease. Like, if this has been in the works or, you know, it's been delayed or, for sale value, ultimately, that's okay, I can understand that. But if you want to do it, you gotta let that thing deliver on the hype. And this is like a year in the making crazy drop. If if the original Connie and the Connie refit hit Endgame, it's oh you uh, anything less than like a scimitar uh powered drop might be less than well almost like bad if you ask me. Like it's just we've been watching so many ships that are older than the Constitution and the refit hit the end game, and every thread, for me at least, it would just end up devolving to like, why, what was so bad about this thing? And the other answer, the biggest one a lot of the time would be age always. Oh, it's an old ship. It was 20 years old. It searched for Spock. It was going to get retired. Well, okay. Um, that's the Enterprise itself, which uh, that maximum indicates a lifetime for the class. Ooh. Um, so, like, you know, we have huge museums filled with almost functional aircraft, uh, you know, that lining up fairly well will often have something like a 20-year lifespan. Um, yeah, so that was a ship, not the class. Mm. And Picard saying he thought he saw one in a museum. Uh, you know, uh, I Y- Yeah, that's not a confirmation one way or the other. I think it could be certainly said that the ship was rare by the time we had hit the TNG eras, but I also think there's a lot of evidence that it was still in service then. And yeah, if you've ever seen my absurd signature post, you'll know why. You can see bits and models that have been of the Constitution refit class found in parts of Star Trek. You'll find refit wreckage in the Battle of Wolf 359 area, or 359, is that right? I might have messed that number up. Um, but and the other big one that often doesn't get mentioned is the USS Olympia. Now, that was the absolute star of my thread where I tried to prove that the Constitution refit was still in service within the actual canon universe of Star Trek. And I still stand up behind that claim, but I will. I do have to open up that little bit of extra in this video because it might be about to happen, it might not. Um, and the information I think may have become more readily available. So my little sneaky move, may have been, beaten. But yeah, so in the wreckage of the Olympia, which is a ship that was in service 3 years before, I think sometime in DS9. But yeah, it was in service 3 years before some point in DS9, and the wreckage is the saucer that gets blown up in the search for Spock. And but also apparently in the wreckage, but I can't see it in the picture if you ask, but I've only been able to see a really small picture. I don't have them on DVD, and I'm kind of just hoping for Blu-ray. Uh, yeah, I know. Uh, and I even hope for it in 4K too. I'll go all the way there too. I don't care. I'll reach for that sky. Let's see it. But yeah, anyways, yeah, the Olympia also had Miranda Nacelle in the wreckage. I didn't directly mention that in my thread because that was my little stealing the Enterprise thing, trying to get, trying to move someone in cryptic to have what they needed to, talk it up at CBS and get this ship at end game. You know, uh, apparently service record was had one at one point been identified as important to you know um, one of the devs. Uh, yeah, so there you could definitely argue that the saucer wreckage in the Olympia was a Miranda class, thanks to the nacelle. But it's then a discussion of which class it was, and so I still stand up behind what I said in that thread because, well, basically the up and down of it, the quick of it is, I think it would be harder to carve a Constitution refit saucer out of a Miranda class hull than it would be to have a Constitution refit class that was, for some strange reason, flying around with, very slightly different Miranda nacelles. Because the Miranda nacelles, if I'm not mistaken, were slightly different. And there, of course, probably would have been scorch marks and or a model hole for where the pylon, supporting pylon would have gone. On a Miranda class, it would have been right here, but on the Constitution refit class, it's right here, and there might have been like an extra little surface here. But I will say that I still think the Constitution refit is still the logical answer here, because yeah, like how on earth could we get an almost perfect Constitution refit saucer out of the back of a Miranda? Because we can look at that model and put points to points and see what everything was supposed to represent. Probably what the bottom looks like. There's scarring where the impulse engines should have been, uh, which is very interesting considering what happened to the ship. Uh, but yeah. Um, So technically, there's an argument that could be made for either, but you know, I'd also say there's the there's the funky thing with the Constitution refit model in Leah Brahm's office in that one TNG episode. I think Booby Trap. Um, Anyways, the Constitution refit model had misplaced nacelles. So there might even be on-screen evidence that the nacelles for the Constitution refit class had funky things happening to them, and you know, what if at the time the Constitution Refit class was like, basically just a step below the Excelsior as far as we could see. So, you know, why don't we see Starfleet's modular design approach applied to the Constitution in, like, when we think about how the program would have actually happened? Like, think about all the modularity we had seen on the Miranda class. Apparently, according to the script and dialogue of the TNG episode where they get onto Jesus, what is it? That little TMP Twak era ship. Oh jeez. It's the one that gets blown all to hell in Star Trek 3. Apparently that tested technology for the Galaxy class. Like, Starfleet was all about modularity. So, in such a system, at least, like, how did the Connie refit ever fall behind, things like the phase cloak test ship or the Miranda? And well, personally, I think it had more to do with image and um, prestige. Um, and well, that sounds highly egotistical of the refit, but at the same time, maybe that's half nefarious or infamous with the Genesis program and all such a sort of catastrophes and hard decisions made with not a lot of witnesses. It's um, it's such a storied ship. So come on, everyone wants it, and we've certainly gone with older ships. We've certainly gone with smaller ships. Um, uh, all right, let's. It feels good to get that out there. Let's see if I can. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Another real interesting angle you'll see on the argument about why this shouldn't happen would be that it's just poorly designed. Like you know, like this isn't how a spaceship should look to be sturdy. Like necks were given up on by Starfleet and nacelles. Well, let's okay, but of course, if you really looked at the proportions of a lot of ships, you'll know that at that necks, sensitive looking necks still exist at the highest tiers. Spindly, long looking, pylons still exist at the highest tiers. Um, uh, there's round saucers at the highest tiers, roundish saucers. Yeah, well, yeah, there really are. Um, just a magnificent ship. Yeah, like the shape issue, it's just so abstract that you'd have to find like a rigid statement from canon if you ask me. And the ugly truth for me could be that in some manuals or the new encyclopedias or something, they're gonna be like it was canceled, it was over, it had its day. But well, I'd, as loud as I can, I'd like to throw the Olympia and the Wolf 359 wreckage out there, you know. Um, it probably wasn't the best ship in the fleet, but it probably wouldn't do a whole lot worse than a modified Excelsior. If you ask me, like how they upgraded the locator. I bet they could do similar things with a refit Connie. Hmm. Like, we know the nacelles can most of the time keep up with the fleet. We saw from later Trek. Um, and we've seen so many components of the Connie refit, you know, partially uh, imparted upon other ships that are still in service. The Twok area ships are almost all still flying in the times of DS9. First Contact has like two verandas at least. Um, yeah, so like there's the museum quote, but at the same time, how does so much of that era, survive and keep going, but the refit, just died out? And well, there are all sorts of angles you can take on that. Um, and there are too many to really try and defend it from in this video. But interstellar travel, exploration, defense, uh, it can be complicated. Maybe the new race in the Federation, uh, maybe you should just give them the blueprints for the older ships, but with mostly newer gear inside of them, and be like, hey, this isn't the best we got, but you're new to us, so let's build up your fleet yards procedurally, you know, and let's see how well your species integrates into Starfleet. And at least environmentally, that must have just been a gigantic mess to try and deal with, you know. So oh geez, how could they ever stop this ship though from going out of service after all it accomplished? Oh man. Um, yeah. So, yeah, the shape thing's real abstract. I do think you can find those exotic, weird, sensitive-looking things on all sorts of ships. Uh, all right. Okay, so how much of that applies to the original Constitution class? Like, maybe we could see the original Constitution model, also imported into the whatever becomes of the Tier 2 cruiser, the Constitution Refit. They're fairly close in size. Maybe their models would mesh. I think a lot of people would at least love to experiment with that. Uh, but justifying that in the market would be really weird, because then all of a sudden the ship skin would be all over the place on the scale. Uh, yeah, that would be awkward, but you know, if the absolute huge number of bundles that they could be doing could be totally justified if they just make it that much OP. If they make this like a 5-3 command cruiser with all the inspiration and all the cruiser abilities. Oh man, that'd be silly. And let's be really real. This was a front-heavy ship, and its armaments. Uh, it doesn't even have an aft-firing torpedo launcher. A big criticism that you'll hear a lot of it. Just these two boys in the front. But honestly, in my opinion, that's all you ever needed. But even the profile shots with this ship. Even the profile shot ships. There was no bad angle on this thing. Even as wonky weird it is. Oh, I forgot to. I should have done different windows. I think I did the wrong windows. Darn. Okay, well. Whoops. Alright. Well, c'est la vie. Um, okay, so. Yeah, it's surprisingly how quick I can just kind of blister through all those talking points about its legitimacy. Um, but I think about it often, so and I'm fully prepared to defend this in the comments anywhere and discuss it to the ends of the earth, wherever it'll be allowed. Um, uh, you know, and they asked for this, they really did. This time they asked for it, so hey, I'll try to have fun with it, and I know if the ship app actually happens, that I will have fun with it. But yeah, I think for fun now, I think I'll just try to do what I did in my ship aesthetics video and just talk about the difference between the model in here and the canon models, and try and beg for the model that's my favorite to be imported into the game. Uh, yeah, so, well, hard points or skin first. Let's do hard points. It's really tough to mess hard points up on this one. Your two photon torpedo launchers. Um, if you do put an F torpedo launcher on there, it should be this maybe this black strip area. Maybe there's just an undefined torpedo launcher in there that we don't ever see because it's black and really tiny. There on the model, the studio model, there are four little exit tube looking things right here. You could probably call those photon torpedoes launchers if you wanted, and have them be real discreet on the model. Um, yeah, let's all hope that aft phaser bank, one of them would be right there. The Enterprise episode with the Constitution class did happen, so that's really, that seems like a logical place. And hey, those shuttlecraft accidents abductions do happen, so gotta be prepared. Um, I don't know if that's a weapon emitter. Probably is. You know, um, Hopefully we would put the phasers here. There were dots there, I think, on one of the later schematics. I think at least the schematic we saw in Undiscovered Country had some dots there, maybe. Can't say for sure, but maybe they weren't identified. Tough to say. But yeah, hopefully that would be focal point of weapons there. Hopefully we wouldn't be putting any sort of weapon emplacements on the nacelles or the pylons. Man, like maybe the pylons, but that would be super pushing it, because there are pylon phaser arrays on cannon ships like the Sovereign, but like, oh, hopefully with these ships, we could get subtleness in all things. And this ship, it's the arcs of its phaser arrays really are extensive. Maybe it is skinny, but you know, doesn't have to look far behind its shoulder to get a good shot if you were to go, with its cannon angles, or, just more realistic angles. But hey, and it's all fun. Fun needs rules. Um, yeah, the tough one, the dual. I'll always ask for it. The dual beam banks, and I think are right here. Hopefully we can put them on these sides or here. Mm, yeah, if it does, yeah, I mean, jeez, it's just yeah, and the phaser strips. If they want to leave this model in the game, that would be totally understandable. But I won't miss it if we, get one of two of the, most broad versions of the ship we saw. And the versions of the ship we saw were slightly different across the movies. I kind of sort of agree, but across them, I think the broad versions you saw were the version you saw in the first movie, which was super shiny, and they often call it pearlescent. Gorgeous. It has the Aztecing, it has everything, and it has the capability to put out a lot of weird different colors of light from things. Very toned down warp nacelle glows though, like perhaps a blue knob here, but on the outside you often would just see that black gridded slate thing, very similar to the texture you see here. Um, and there were slits of the glow coming out of the inside. And what else was different? You could get a different glow on the deflector. We only mostly really saw that in Star Trek 1, though. Maybe just a teeny bit of it in 2. And it could get different glow up here and have blue impulse engines. Very strange. We saw all sorts of colors come out of, well, maybe just white and blue. Not for sure. But, anyways, the first movie version, yeah, tough to live up to by the other guys' recounts of the story. Um, yeah, then I think for 2, 3, 4, and possibly 5, it just got hit with a matte spray to kind of take out the shine from it so it'd work better with cameras. I think this helped the design. I think it made it look more far out and like a bigger object. You know, uh, yeah. Um, so hopefully, if we get more than one, that would be one of the skins we'd get. And that'd be the Wrath of Khan skin in there. Um, so of course everyone's gonna want that one. And then possibly there was a major difference for Star Trek 5, and then there was a major difference for Star Trek 6. For 5, I can't speak much for. I think the model may have become more white with their matte spray. Not sure. Paint job might have been kind of simple. Not positive. I've heard different accounts. It's at the moment it's tough for me to tell which one's more real. So yeah, I probably won't try to comment on that too much. Then my favorite version of the model, of course, the Star Trek 6 version, which I think is the version you see at auction. Um, and this version, you know, got mostly the treatment, the same treatment you saw for the other models, in its application to the look. But if you ask me, I think there were color differences. Like maybe the Wrath of Khan version was blue, and maybe when they went to the Undiscovered Country version, they made the paint like specifically around these areas green, like various shades and hues and tones of green. However, that's said. um, so I'd really want that one. I really love those greens in there. So yeah, of course I want the Star Trek 6 version of the paint job, but there, between all of them, there aren't a ton of huge differences. You know, um, like hopefully it won't be too much work to update this model if they do make it, because that'll probably be part of delivering. Unfortunately, when the ship was out of the cycle of Endgame for so long, you know, it can only be built up for that release. Like, if it does happen, mm, um, yeah, the visuals won't, like almost if they just take a pass at it, I'd probably be super satisfied because the shape of the ship didn't really change if I recall correctly between all the films. So really, with any sort of model update, I would just be, of course, thrilled. But I'd want each and every skin. I'd have multiple characters. Maybe I'd use one skin for one of them and another for the other. Uh, Jeez. Man, the thought that this could happen is just, oh, it's making me crazy. Um, yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. All right, let's take another look at this script here. Yeah, surprisingly, that might just be just about everything. Mm, it's yeah, it's okay. Wow, there's no way this is done so soon, but I can maybe edit it out. Is there something I missed about the hard points? Um, should it get a hanger? I wouldn't mind if it didn't have a hanger. You know, um, I'd rather it had better things, cooler things, more powerful things, in my opinion. Um, but there are some really cool options they could do with the old Twalk shuttlecraft that I made a forum post long ago. Um, if okay, well, depending on what these little, let's say they do shuttles for this. If they're good, yeah, I'd probably use them. I'd probably leap for that. I definitely like if you watch me play my Akira, you'll realize that I just use shield healing pets because I don't even want to deal with nurturing damage of that minor concern. Um, oof. Yeah, but yeah, it's man, it must just be crazy a cryptic right now. Oh, really? It must be. Yeah, it's tough. Good luck, guys. I'm rooting for delivery. Um, I really am. Oh, geez, but I won't sound like it, and I apologize for that ahead of time. You know, but you know, I'll try and make it presentable. Cause hey, at the very least, at the very, 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 very least, I can take this thing into queues anyways, and buck that whole set of problems to the wind. I'm really tempted to make a torpedo build with it, but this is what I did with it before Delta Rising came out. Not this stuff, that's just stuff I slapped on to, make myself go. This stuff, yeah, this is what I tried with, but I really want to try torpedoes with it. But probably that, well, I've got a feeling, maybe not, you know, hmm, it's, could be, yeah, let's all hope. Let's all hope. Let's, yeah, let's sing a song for the Connie, for all she gave us. Hmm, but we can't do it on the forums. We have to stay behind that picket line. So be careful. Um, oh geez. No, okay. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Let's yeah, Yeah, I guess one more thing about the model, maybe. You know, I'd say it got its first lines from Matt Jeffries, who gave it the more angled look. Um, the more angled nacelles, I think, too, were mostly him. But, perhaps they had different glows or components. I think might have still had a deflector then, back in Phase 2 design era. Which is surprisingly pseudo-canon. It shows up on a screen in one of the movies, the schematic for the Phase 2 Enterprise. Um, you know, it's such a huge cash cow. How do they even approach it? I don't envy Cryptic right now at all. Let's um let's try and be an understanding, but let's also try and get the best ship we can, because you know we've been waiting for a long time, and big business decisions don't always most I would assume that most oftentimes don't happen instantly. So let's talk about it as much as we can, so that if it is happening, Cryptic Cryptic knows what he wants. And if everyone else just wants the TMP skin, probably the one I'd be least interested in using, hey, that's and it happens, and we get it. Hey, that's I'm still gonna have a blast. Oh man, and you are darn right. I'm gonna take it into the PvP queues. Oh man, I can't. Oh, you'll have to. If they get the blue and the green paint jobs into this area, I'll uh, I'll use green for my tactical characters, and I'll use blue for my healer tanks. That'll be the only warning you get, because I think I could make a decent build as long as the ship doesn't get like actually gimped in some way. Then I think I can definitely make a decent build. But hopefully it's OP, because man, it's been so long in the coming. Oh, you know, it's yeah. Let's also hope we can stir up some real discussion about it, because right now it's we're probably not getting a TWAC Undiscovered Country era faction or expansion, according to Thomas the Cat. But at the same time, the way he said it, and the way that the that this ship has been spoken of, like not not happening, but it's slippery, like what's the point of if you can forgive me for putting words in his mouth right now. Gekko basically said, what would be the point of differentiating between this technological piece of equipment and one whose parts are completely interchangeable with it without changing performance results? Now, I'm definitely putting words into his mouth there, but I want to apply what he said to the truth of the situation. Um, the whole time, this thing has been, you know, it had a full family of, uh, you know, modern style Star Trek ships. And also, the other thing that I completely forgot to mention earlier, but will make the end of this video totally that much more worthwhile, is that the way they mentioned the TOS bundle ships getting end game status, they were like, I think they almost exactly said everything that's not tier 2 or above will get an end game, can be used at end game. No, yeah, basically they just said every skin that shares an end game ship will be usable at end game, which was essentially all of them except the new skin for the Connie, the original Connie. So the Refit is a tier 2 ship. Um, According to what the rules were with getting TOS style ships into the game in such high volume, how does the refit fail such requirements? Because technically it should be newer and better than, these TOS styled ships. So there's hope, you know, and if you want it, tell me what you want the most. I really do want to hear. Thanks for watching. Sid Storm out.